This episode is brought to you by SafeJet, the operators of the anti-dump mechanism that you see all other DeFi projects copying. SafeJet is the safest coin in the crypto game, protecting you from your whales and chart manipulators. That way your investment is still there in the morning. Free travel, cash giveaways, an experienced and doxed team also lets you lock, fly, and land with SafeJet. For more information, visit safejet.io, link in the description below.
This my two Satoshis, who need 2 cents when they can get double from stacking Toshis, yeah.
Hola, and buenos dias, G&Gs. I am Trekker2Ks, and this is my two Satoshis, brought to you here on CBTV. If you don't know, let me just tell you, basic idea is I cover some crypto things, and then I cover some non-crypto things. Sometimes they're on your radar, sometimes they're not on your radar. Somehow they end up on my radar, so I decided to share them with y'all. Bottom line, it might not directly relate to you, but hopefully it gets you to start questioning what's going on in the crypto space as well as what's going on outside of the crypto space. Before I jump into these stories, let me just say this. Thank you for the folks who are sharing the videos. Thank you for the folks who are watching. We see the numbers, they are going up, and we appreciate it. I know I appreciate it. Why? Because at the end of the day, it means that the ranting and rambling that I do makes sense to someone out there. And arguably, considering how the numbers look, it's making sense to more of you. So I appreciate the lurkers, I appreciate the hackers, I appreciate the people who actually are interested in the content. I appreciate those of you who give the thumbs up or the thumbs down, as well as who makes a comment. If I'm saying something good or if I'm saying something you disagree with, I appreciate is the point, right? So let's jump into this first story. And here you have it. This first one, Paraguayan bill regulating crypto mining and trading moves closer to law. This is X amount dated. It was in last month, but I'm just bringing it back up to y'all because what we recently, and 2 weeks ago, there was the El Salvadorian financial group meeting that they had X amount of the central banks from different countries come. I do believe Paraguay was one of those countries that had representation there. And so this actually works out to kind of align with the direction that they're looking to run in, which is, hey, we want to get in on this new technology and the industry that is growing from it, as well as what it means to the country's coffers, what it means to us being able to have a GDP growth. So what I did not know, and I'm only going to go through a couple of limited things right here as far as highlights. So I'm going to read through this first part. Speaking with CoinDesk last year, Carlos Rihala. I'm saying that name so wrong. I apologize, sir. One of the bill's authors said that legislation aims to attract international miners to Paraguay, which has one of the lowest electricity rates in Latin America at around 5 cents per kilowatt hour. I ain't gonna lie, that's dumb low, especially if you're talking about at the corporate or industrial level. Like, that's pretty low. What I will say though, well, let me get through these other two highlights real quick. If the bill becomes law, individual and corporate miners have to request authorization for industrial electricity consumption and then apply for a license. The proposal also creates a registry for individuals and legal entities aiming to provide trading and custody services for third parties, although the concept of exchange is not included. So here's where I'm gonna go with this real quick. This is how we get into that co-opting of, right? The technology can do one thing, it has certain use cases, you co-opt the use cases into the traditional framework. That's what I see happening right here, which arguably is going on right now in Consensus 2022. Don't shoot the messenger. I got my interpretation of how I see it. Other folks are going to tell you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We all do not have to agree to still be a part of this thing called crypto or blockchain or the bigger community. Point being is, other countries outside of the US are looking to get their foothold or at least have some market share of this industry on the side of the businesses that make it up, as well as the infrastructure that make it up at the base core level of how the technology works. And they're doing it in different aspects. The mining side is definitely one of those things for Bitcoin, as well as other protocols that are out there. And so this last part, what was it? So this one other congressperson, Tadeo Rojas, argued that the impact on job creation is lower and the energy consumption isn't that high, which is crazy because you literally have states here in the US that are offering people to move to the state in order to get them to work for some of these mining companies. And it's gonna be an upskill for your local people, which is the biggest thing. Like, how do you, this is the thing that gets me for all of these different projects that I'm hearing about and seeing that are running, or these countries that are doing these like, oh, come to us, come to us. How are you actually helping your local people with this new budding industry and being able to get, I'm not even going to say economic sovereignty, just let's say economic stability. How about that? Let's just go for economic stability. I'm not even going to say economic sovereignty, because some of these countries, they ain't trying to have you go play outside the walled garden. Like, not at all. This is about them trying to get every penny and every pence, every peso that they can right now. Nonetheless, that's what's going on in Paraguay. I do believe things have rolled forward, although like it's later on, I think this year, that's actually supposed to come to full assigned on bill and stuff. Let me get close for you. Y'all can definitely follow up on that. Why? Because the links for these articles that I go through will always be in the description. And so that way, if you want to deep dive, if you want to follow up, if you can be like, where did he find that at? You're going to have the link there so you could do the look yourself. All right, now, next story. This one kind of threw me. Not throw me, it didn't throw me. But when you first read it, right? So Nicaragua authorized the entry of Russian troops, planes, and ships. This came out literally just past week, just now. So we're looking at, what is that, June 11th? The basic idea was that President Daniel Ortega has authorized Russian troops, planes, ships to deploy to Nicaragua for purposes of training, law enforcement, and emergency responses. Jumping into this next highlighted line, the Nicaraguan government has also authorized the presence of small contingencies of Russian troops for exchange of experiences in training. Let me, for those of you who might be looking at, oh my God, the Russians are going to be like right here in America. Like, understand something. We do the same thing. We literally have these exchange programs that we go into European countries, we go into other Latin American countries, we go into the Asian countries, we go into the African countries. We have these same type of programs and we do the same thing. Also, thing to note, as far as this particular deal going on, they, or at least the author or someone had talked to who the Russian person is to be like, hey, so what's this about? And they're like, yeah, like we're doing the same thing that the US does, and the US can actually be a part of this too. So before some of y'all like super ho-hos start getting your panties in a bunch and you don't understand like how we do these things already now on a regular, this is not far-fetched. It's just a matter of what the geopolitical climate looks like right now to make it seem like this is out of the ordinary. It's strange. What are y'all doing? Just saying, be careful on how you read into things. How about that? All right, jumping into this last story. Oh, again, I'm just some guy on the internet, remember that. So if you want to push back, the comments are open. You can find me on Twitter. It's always cool. I appreciate the engagement. I really do. Now, other thing to say here, Goldman Sachs says the crypto crash will have small impact on the US. I had been meaning to talk about this probably 3 weeks ago or something, probably 4 weeks by the time you see this. The basic idea is that one of Goldman Sachs' people were like, hey, we know that the recession thing is going to end up happening, but as far as we see it, for the amount of money as well as people involved in crypto, it's not going to affect the bigger market because it's not that sizable for how much volume and activity is going on in it. Now, I agree that crypto having its crypto winter and the bigger picture of this economic recession thing that I've been saying is actively going on because of the things I'm paying attention to. Other folks have said it too. I'm not no super economist. My point being is the number of users don't make enough sense. And if you're talking about like the financial institution money side of it, that's like arguably a different animal going on compared to what they're actually saying in this article, where they're focused on the household level of it, the retail level of it. I'm curious on how they came up to a conclusion. Let me just run through some of the posts. That this is the author, I believe, that actually worked for one of the newspapers who decided to like talk about what they said in the report that came out of Goldman Sachs. Now, this is not the person who actually wrote the report or contributed to it. This is the writer who covers crypto and like financial news stuff. So the global market for majority cryptocurrencies has declined in value from 2.3 trillion last year to 1.3 now. Again, this is an older article, and arguably we're lower at the time by the time you see this, right? So basically what he's saying is this, hey, the amount of price action happening, the volume and is going down. I would argue this is more of an indicator to say what's going on with the regular economy and people not having the discretionary funds to push over into crypto. And arguably, the point that he's making about it's not really going to matter is opposite sounding of what like Lagarde and Yellen have been saying about it's a dangerous thing, it's unregulated and speculative, and people will waste their money and lose it putting money into it. And Lagarde made a comment in one of her interviews that I covered on one of the other episodes, where it's like, when financial times get hard, people do desperate things. So it's one person is saying this, people will do desperate things when things are financially hard and take chances, while these collectively smart people who work for Goldman Sachs are like, people aren't really gonna run this way with it. And if the market goes down, I need to make this connection. The market is arguably gonna go down because people are going to have to sell off assets to deal with real world bills, as well as people are going to end up losing jobs. So now they have to tap in on their crypto gains to deal with real world bills. But we're still going to be more conservative in how we spend and what we spend on. So it's an interesting mix. Like, again, I agree to a degree in regards to what he's saying about the impact it will have in the bigger economy, but I don't think it's the indicators that they're taking it as. But again, I'm just some guy on the internet. So what do I know? I'm not certified as an economist. I just been around the space for a little bit, and things that I've noticed on how people tend to use their gains, or what people tend to do when real world bills start knocking on their door and they just remembered that they had some crypto. Just saying. I'll close it out on that. Oh, you know what? Here's the last thing I want to jump on about this. I thought it was interesting that they kept focusing, at least for what the article was pulling away, that they were focusing on young American men. Now, are we talking about this on a base of nationality of young American men? Because there's another part where they're talking about, like, there it is, the small share of household wealth. If you're a single guy who lives with your parents, are you a part of the household wealth? If you haven't had a job the last 2 years, but you're a husband or a partner, and it's two of y'all, like, we're not even gonna get to the kid stage of it. Are you contributing to the household wealth? It might be that my interpretation of this is skewed because I don't have the whole report. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm not even gonna go through reading all of that report. I'm not gonna cap. But I do find it interesting that the focus on young American men, and it's, wait, what are we counting as young men? What are we counting as American men? And I'm not talking about the gender stuff. I'm talking about, are we saying young American as far as like citizenship status? And then are we talking about who's the household? How does the household thing work out? That's just me and how my brain works. Nonetheless, I'm throwing those questions out to y'all. If y'all got some good answers or some crappy answers, the comments is always open. I appreciate the engagement, and I appreciate learning if somebody actually knows something better on this one. Just saying. I think it's also ignorant of, if you're talking about a household where it is a male partner and a female partner, now he gets impacted. She's gonna get double impacted, especially if there's a kid. Just saying, I think that the way this was put together was ignorant or not acknowledging of that. But that's just my interpretation of it. Nonetheless, closing it out, last things to be are, we're giving away the Oculus hard wallets. You got to tap into the live streams that we do. It's for the paid members on the CBTV channel, so you have that opportunity to get that. We're also doing the giveaway ticket for the Blockchain Futures Conference in August. That is in Toronto, Canada. So you do need a passport. If you don't have a passport and you are a grown adult, come on now. Let's level up on adulthood. I'm just saying, you don't got to go to Canada, but you know, I would encourage you to have a passport. And so I'm gonna just close it out to this and say, things are happening. Sometimes they don't necessarily make direct sense for what's going on in your life, but it doesn't mean it doesn't impact you, okay? And that's why I throw these stories out there. That's why I give my 2 Satoshis on stuff. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Last thing is, I am Shrek with 2Ks. This is CBTV. You've just watched another episode of My Two Satoshis. 1.